What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Group Chat Football Live. I am Peter Ariz alongside D Money, and this is our daily college football show talking the biggest news in the sport. And today we are talking about a program that we're pretty bullish on here at Group Chat Football Live, and that's Indiana. Curt Cignetti. What an amazing first season for them. But let me tell you, they're only building on that, we believe here. Some people nationally would question what their schedule was like last year, but I think without a doubt, this team is gearing up from a talent standpoint to be really, really strong roster-wise.
Yeah, and they're following the same blueprint to a degree that they followed the first year. Obviously, it was unique with so many players coming from James Madison that knew the system. But if you look at the type of players they're bringing in, hard-nosed offensive linemen, smart, tall, accurate, pro-style type quarterbacks, South Florida defensive backs that can run. These are things that they did successfully last year. They're trying to recreate the formula with new blood that fits into that mold, along with a lot of returning talent as well.
So what we're going to do today is talk about the top 5 newcomers, not necessarily in any particular order, but 5 players that we are very excited about here at Indiana next season coming in, whether it's transfer, recruiting wise. And we're not just going to go, pick the most highly rated recruit. Maybe we are, but we're going and talking about guys here that we've, watched film on or something like that. We'll start, of course, with the quarterback, Fernando Mendoza. And this is a guy who pretty obviously he was going to be on this list here, but someone that in our work on the Miami Hurricanes side, we watched him very closely at Cal. He's from Miami, which is where we're based. Went to the high school that I went to, so a guy that I've known about for a while, you've known about for a while. Really solid numbers last year at Cal without a great supporting cast, without a great offensive line. And I think what they're doing at Indiana to surround him is really, really exciting.
Yeah, originally from my high school, right? Then transferred to your high school. He's someone who's the definition of a late bloomer, which is why I tell Indiana fans, which you saw at Cal last year, which was very good. He was one of the top-rated portal transfers in the country. That's not necessarily what he is going to be. I think he can be better than that. This is a guy who, when he was at Belen, my high school, he was backup quarterback to Dorian Gonzalez, who's now the second baseman for the Miami Hurricanes baseball team. He's tall, always a tall kid, kind of kept growing into his body, gangly, getting stronger, more athletic, sturdier, went to Columbus, won state titles and more of a run-based offense, was committed to Yale to play football. Cal swooped in at the last minute with an offer. This was not a power forward prospect. This was not an FBS prospect for pretty much his entire recruiting process until the very end. Of course, ends up winning the job as a redshirt freshman at Cal, has a good season there, goes to a bowl last year, really good season, goes to another bowl, and now is one of hottest transfers of the market, landing in Indiana where his brother plays. So with him, I think you'll see him continue to get more athletic, continue to get stronger. He's really, really diligent about his work. He's constantly trying to get better. He's almost Tom Brady-esque. There's a comparison I've heard, not in terms of what he's going to be or his talent, but just in terms of his mindset. He's one of those guys that just lives, breathes football, always trying to get better, find an edge, and he has continued to get stronger and better. Look at the stats last year, 69%. Over 3,000 yards, 16 touchdowns, 6 picks, 7.8 yards per attempt. I think, look at Curtis Rourke. Mendoza can give you a lot of the same things that Rourke gave you, but I think he has even more athletic upside as he continues to develop.
And then I wanted to play a video here real quick from Hoosiers Connect, which is the official NIL collective for Indiana. And it goes to just show you, gives you an idea of the personality of this guy, his leadership abilities, the intangibles that he's bringing to the table here in an Indiana program that, the really nice foundation was laid last year. You're going to have a lot of moving pieces, a lot of turnover, of course, but being the quarterback coming in with that stability, with that leadership. And again, I'm going to play this clip here so you guys can hear it and you see what type of guy this Fernando Mendoza is.
But I want to know, what is your day-to-day like? Tell me, you're doing a lot of prep. What is an 8-hour, 12-hour day look for you?
Yeah, so right now in Bloomington, I couldn't give you what the season looks like now in Bloomington or what spring ball looks like, but winter workouts, what I would say they look like is wake up around 8 a.m.-ish, just because there's different workout groups, and the group that I'm in, offensive skill, lifts a little later. And so wake up around 8, head to the facility, eat breakfast with some of my teammates, ending up, usually we have a meeting beforehand, like an installation meeting with the playbook. And so one of the assistant coaches will go over some of the plays, and we'll be able to rep that, review signals. We'll work out, and that workout will usually end around 12. Usually I will head to class from every
now and then.
Well, there's some days I don't have class. And there's some days I do have more class than others, just by the schedule, Yeah. But I'll go to class. I'll get back from class around, let's say 2, and then from 2 to 6, I'll usually just be up in the offensive quarterback room, learning the playbook, learning the signals, something football related.
Yeah.
And then at 6, I'll usually go get dinner, head home, and at home, kind of settle in, do anything I need around the house. I mean, I had to build the bed the other night, so it's still a little bit of moving in.
Yeah.
And after that, before I go to sleep, I have these flashcards of all the plays, and I have a whiteboard, and I'll write and I'll draw up the plays and do the signals to kind of a little bit of memorization.
So, I think you've said it before, D, but you get those Kirk Cousins vibes with those guys. I wanted to play that clip because you get a good idea of his personality. And again, coming into a program that had a good thing going last year, I think he's just going to slide right in from a culture standpoint.
No question about it. And thought about missing class. He doesn't miss much class, right? He was an Ivy League guy at a high school, on track to go Ivy League before Cal swooped to the last second. Not a bad school either. Cal, Indiana, another great school. So this guy is a high academic performer. Can handle a lot in terms of seeing the defense and running the show on offense. So he's going to continue to be that leader by example, that hard worker. You saw his comeback drive against Stanford last year's last game as a Cal Bear. So to me, I think what you saw last year is just the beginning of what he's going to be. You saw him run for a lot more first downs. He's much, much more athletic than he gets credit for. I think he is going to be, I don't want to say it, he's not going to be a dual threat next year in the Big Ten, but he is going to be a much more mobile player than he was last year, which was a much more mobile player than he was the year before that. He's trending up in that direction, and really, really love this player. Someone we've been talking about since high school. I want to say I was the first one to say, on a forum like this, that he was an FBS player. So I'm a believer. I think he's going to be a heck of a quarterback in the Big Ten.
One of his issues at Cal last season was they had one of the worst offensive lines in the country from an analytics standpoint, just looking at PFF and things like that. And they're bolstering that at Indiana for him, bringing in Pat Coogan here from Notre Dame, who started for Notre Dame last year. It was a bit of a numbers game over there. They're absolutely loaded at Notre Dame in the offensive line, but this is a guy who played on that national championship team that made it to the national championship, has played guard, has played center, and again, a veteran who, is familiar with the Midwest there, and should just slide right in and be a great fit from a culture and football perspective for them.
Yeah, Chicago native, 6'5", 310, started games at guard. Notre Dame has so much young talent that a lot of these guys were losing jobs, winning jobs, kind of getting shuffled around. He ends up as the backup center after being the starting guard. Center gets hurt, then he's played starting center throughout their entire run to the championship game. Known for his leadership, his pregame speeches. Certainly going to be a leader for Indiana right off the top. He just played in the championship game, so he has that credibility. He is someone who will earn the credibility with his play. And again, he is very, very vocal. They really went viral for some of his pregame speeches. Just Google those if you want to see what this guy does before the game. But during the game, he's a very big center, former guard for Notre Dame. So to play guard in Notre Dame, you got to be a big physical guy and start games, and he was that. Moving to center, he's a very big center, very physical center, a people mover, has some athleticism, but is not like he's not like a Jason Kelsey type. This guy's going to line up and beat you up and bring some physicality to the pivot there for Indiana. Really, he could play guard if he needs to, but I think at center, he's going to be a rock for this team. And you got a veteran connection there with championship caliber veteran center, and then a quarterback who's been starting since his redshirt freshman year.
We're going to keep that veteran theme rolling here, as it's like baseball, man. They're strong up the middle at Indiana. And that is going to be Roman Hemby, a transfer running back from Maryland, a guy who's played a lot of football, big back with some speed. He's 6 foot, 6'1", over 200 pounds, but is a guy who can really, once he gets going downfield, he's moving. I'll play some clips here in just a second. And again, has played a lot of football, and probably we have not seen the best of him, as early on in his Maryland career were really his best years by the numbers.
Yeah, 2022 redshirt freshman, honorable mention, all Big Ten. This is a guy that has size, like you mentioned. He has speed, from Baltimore, Maryland. It's amazing you pull him from his hometown area. But 2,347 career yards, 4.9 yards per carry, 22 touchdowns on his career, all, of course, at the Big Ten level. And this is a guy who's very, you see the physical tools. You see the fact that he's proven against good production. He's also a very smart guy, academic, all Big Ten, was an honor roll type of kid in high school. So you expect him to come in to Indiana with a professional mindset, just like Mendoza we talked about, Coogan, leaders, smart guys. That's what Hemby is. So a lot of teams bring in transfers, and sometimes their culture goes down because they're just grabbing guys that maybe weren't vetted or had issues at their previous stop. Indiana is bringing in transfers that are high IQ, high character, and I think that's going to help this group fit into a winning culture, because there's a playoff team already, and elevate that winning culture in many ways.
So let's go to the high school ranks here with Byron Baldwin Jr., a defensive back who, he plays all over the place on his film here, as I'll pull it up here in a second, from St. Francis Academy in Baltimore. So huge recruiting win for them. A guy who was a 4-star recruit, and you'd expect Indiana to start to be able to dip into the higher tier of recruits here as they continue to have some sustained success with Coach Cignetti.
Yeah, it's amazing this guy got out of the Mid-Atlantic. So 6'1.5", 180 pounds verified, +4 wingspan in the summer of 2024. So verified size. The multi-sport background is so interesting because he's a triple jumper, which is the ultimate explosiveness. And then he's a wrestler, right? The ultimate leverage and strength. You don't usually see that combination in a defensive back. So you see some of the speed here, and then the physicality from wrestling. Boom. He doesn't miss many tackles. I know it's a highlight reel, but you can see his strength when he's tackling guys. You see him here with coverage. So sometimes wrestlers, you worry about the fluidity. He has some fluidity there. St. Francis is a monster program, one of the best in the country. So for this guy to get out of the Mid-Atlantic as the number 20 safety in the country, there you see the tackling. I was pretty surprised. Huge recruiting win for Indiana to get this guy out of there, a highly coveted player. And look at the change of direction. Look at the instincts. And then, of course, he's a wrestler. So, boom, that tackle, he's not going anywhere. I think this is a guy who could play right away. You look at the Maryland defense, Amari Farrell, Devin Boykin from NC State. We did a video on him when he committed, coming off injury, Lewis Moore. So they got a lot of veterans at the safety position. But I think when you have a talented guy like this, who's here early and has a lot of traits that will allow him to play early, coming from a big school, having that versatility, you don't want to sit him too long. You don't want him jumping in the portal. So I think this is a guy that one way or the other has to play. Again, I mentioned 4th in the 165-pound weight class in Maryland, which is no joke. 41 and 4.5 inches in the triple jump. Top performer back-to-back years at the Under Armour Camp Baltimore. So he showed he can move without pads in more of a finesse kind of setting. Unique set of skills. Love the fit. He's a wrestler, so he's tough as nails and ready to work. I love this pickup. I think this guy's going to contribute day one.
Yeah, and I have cornerback there on the graphic, but as you see in the highlight, he plays all over the place. He plays safety, listed as a defensive back on the Indiana roster right now as an early enrollee. So I expect him to, as we mentioned, a versatile guy. And with that talent level, I think he gets on the field relatively early there.
Yeah, I think it's, again, very deep defensive backfield. We'll talk about the cornerbacks in a second. But guys like this got to play. You don't want these guys jumping in the portal and going elsewhere.
Well, you teased it there. And our last guy on the list here, another transfer who's a defensive back, Amariyun Knighten from Northern Illinois.
Yeah, this is someone I've watched since high school. 6 foot, 175 from Deerfield Beach, Florida. Deerfield Beach has produced a ton of great players. You go back to Shoelace Robinson. Some of you guys might remember from Michigan. You Big Ten fans remember him running around all over the place, Denard Robinson. But Deerfield's produced a lot of defensive backs lately. OJ Frederic, who is a true freshman All-America for Miami Hurricanes. From Deerfield Beach, Xavier Lucas, who is right there on the border of true freshman All-America for Wisconsin. who now transferred to Miami to join
Aaron Robinson.
Aaron Robinson, you from UCF, NFL player, I believe it was a 3rd-round draft pick from
Yeah,
Deerfield.
high pick. Yep.
Yes, these are just some recent examples. I mean, you can go back, Jason Pierre-Paul and some other positions where Deerfield's produced some big-time players. But with respect to, Indiana, you get Amariyun Robinson, has some length, has some quickness, always a fast kid going back to high school, 45 tackles, 7 pass breakups, 1 pick, 14 starts. The cornerback room, I think Indiana's done a very smart thing, and this predates Cignetti, but just to me, it makes a lot of sense, is you're bringing in guys from South Florida, a region that has a surplus of defensive backs. You're bringing in guys with traits, and then you're developing them in a state like Indiana, where Indiana does not produce a lot of cornerbacks, and it's not that easy to get cornerbacks to come to Indiana. So to get the guys in South Florida that may be a little underrated and then bring them into your program, to me, is a very smart approach. The classic example, D'Angelo Pons from Chaminade, maybe a little too small and skinny for the bigger schools. He was someone I liked in high school and posted about as one of my sleepers. 10-6 speed in the 100, fluid, tough, smart, goes to James Madison, goes with Cignetti to Indiana. He's an All-America. Jamari Sharp, somebody from Miami Northwestern, didn't play as much last year, but had a big year before that and has had his moments. 6'1", legit 4.3 speed track star. He has a chance to really explode if he can put it together and get some consistency. And then from outside of South Florida, I believe he's originally from Georgia, Rylan Gandy, Pittsburgh Panther transfer. He started for Pittsburgh last year. He's certainly going to be in the mix. But these South Florida corners, I think, have a lot of upside, a lot of speed, and really give Indiana a unique look that you wouldn't expect from a school like Indiana, right in the heart of the Midwest.
Hoosiers fans, we're excited, man. We really believe in what's being built over there. And look, did we all expect them to have the year they had last year? No, not necessarily, but they've got to go in the right direction. To build on that now is going to be key for them. But like we've said multiple times, we really like the talent that's been brought in there to surround Mendoza as the quarterback, because at the end of the day, I think you're upgrading there at that position. So if you can get everything else right around him, it's not going to be the same team. They might look a little bit different, but you got to be excited if you're an IU fan. So Hoosiers fans, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you like this sort of content. We will have your team covered all off season long. Looking forward to spring ball out there, and stay tuned. Hit that like, subscribe. Thank you all for watching.